Hello, hello, my love. I hope this finds you doing so well. My perfect tender raviolis, I came up with another amazing metafora, and I'm so stoked to share it. From the brain that brought you Taller Toddlers, episode 190. Remember that one? It was like, we do all these things to take care of ourselves when we're an actual toddler, and then we're like 35 or 45 and we haven't properly rested or fed ourselves or like taking care of ourselves, and then we're wondering why we feel bonkers. You are a taller toddler, and I want you to treat you like one. From the brain that came up with Be the Cake, episode 166, kitten steps, which I started looking for like the original episode where I talked about kitten steps, and it's unfindable. I talk about it everywhere all the time. So from the brain that brought you those three and like 473 other random metaforas I can't even come up with, comes bracing and intentional tolerance. So now, like, hearing it out loud, it's not actually such like a great metaphor in that it's not like cute or funny, but it is also such a great metaphor because it's so evocative of the thing that it's about. And I think it'll really help you to feel what I'm talking about and thus get the concept and see it in your life and apply the remedies we'll soon discuss to shift this experience. And come on, isn't that what it's all about? I mean, it helps if it's cute, if it's like Taller Toddler or Be the Cake or Kitten Steps, but does it have to be hilarious to heal? I think not. It does help. So I will come up with another cute metaphor for you soon enough. Something like, let your inner chipmunks do backflips. And that'll mean like some really profound thing about self-love. And it'll be great. And we'll be back to LOLing soon, pinky promise. But for now, let's get into this because I'm really excited about it. And when I came up with it, it just felt really great. Like, you know, when you've been thinking about something for a long time and working on it, working with it, and then suddenly the language clicks. So my goddess of a book editor, Hannah, I love you. We were talking about boundaries and how when you're new to setting them, they often need to be made of like actual reinforced steel because we're so scared they'll crumble otherwise. And so when we're new to this work, we set some really intense limits that are maybe overdoing it, but it's because it's so new, right? And so overdoing it is totally expectable, totally understandable, no judges on that, right? The work is to expand our nervous system so we don't have, right, to use the Buddhist term, grasping at such intense boundaries to like do the work for us, because we're able to flow with what is without letting it F us up like it used to. And from that conversation, the framework of bracing versus intentional tolerance was born. And yeah, sure, the language is still clunky, but I'm loving it for what it explains and what it does. Let me back up, my nerds. I'm using the word tolerance here, which to be real is a word I don't like, but I'm using it because science, right? It's a word used in the nervous system nerd world to talk about our capacity to stay regulated and present with and in ourselves when life happens to and around us. So the term in like the science and the papers is window of tolerance. And we've talked about it here before. The scientific definition of tolerance refers to an organism's ability to endure, adapt to, that's the part we're leaning on, or resist changes in the environment without experiencing significant damage or alterations in function. Yeah? So effectively, tolerance is how much BS you and your nervous system can be with, put up with, be surrounded by before you lose your cool and start throwing tables or shut down and crawl to the back of the cave. And that's what we're working with today. The window of tolerance in your nervous system and how much garbage we tolerate in emotional outsourcing. Got it? Got it. Okay, so the difference between bracing tolerance and intentional tolerance in the healing journey on out of emotional outsourcing is a profound shift, both somatically and physiologically. When we emotionally outsource, habitually placing other people's emotions, needs, or reactions ahead of our own in a bid for safety, connection, and validity, we often find ourselves locked in a state of what I am now calling bracing tolerance. Like the kind of tolerance that feels like a physical or emotional contraction, an attempt to muscle through discomfort, to grit our teeth and bear it. Bracing tolerance is survival mode. It's putting up with and feeling put upon, and it sucks. And it's rooted in fear and the nervous system's learned responses to threats, perceived or real, that come from disappointing others, speaking our truth, or setting boundaries. It feels like there's an invisible rope pulled tight within our bodies, holding us rigid as we attempt to navigate the discomfort of unmet needs, unexpressed desires, and the constant negotiation of ourselves in relation to others. This kind of tolerance is built on resentment, tension, manipulation, and self-abandonment. It's the, fine, I'll tolerate this. I'll put up with it. I'm going to feel really resentful and annoyed and irritated, and I'm definitely keeping score energy of swallowing our no, holding our breath, and pushing through situations that feel somewhere between and like deeply wrong. All in the name of maintaining some semblance of connection or avoiding conflict or potential abandonment. So all of that was what it sounded like on the inside, but on the outside, it sounds like, yeah, sure, fine. Yeah, I can do that. Totally. No, I mean, I had some other plans, but like, I'll cancel them if it sounds like this is really important to you. So like, yeah, no, I can do that. Physically, we might notice tightness in our jaw, clenching in our gut, shoulders hunch and stiff, shallow breathing, a flare of IBS or other belly pain, joint pain, headaches. Emotionally, we're tapped out, exhausted from the hyper-vigilance of keeping other people's feelings in check while disregarding our own. Our nervous system ping-ponging with the sympathetic and dorsal all over the place. In essence, bracing tolerance comes from a place of unresolved fear and a lack of safety within ourselves. It reflects a deep-seated nervous system pattern, often from childhood, from our socialization and our conditioning within white settler colonialism, late-stage capitalism, and of course, the patriarchy that says, I have to tolerate this BS, this mistreatment, this denial of my capital S self, my preferences, my desires, my wants, who I actually am, in order to be safe, loved, or thought of as worthy. Because as folks with emotional outsourcing habits, we were taught that our safety and belonging depend on accommodating others, even when it costs us so dearly. But then, as we do the work I'm always talking about here, the somatic and thought work, the breath work, the community connection, the regulation work, the work we do every day for 6 months anchored in community, slowly but surely, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, gently, something shifts. Healing from emotional outsourcing means learning to inhabit our bodies, to listen to our own needs, and to recognize that true connection doesn't come from betraying ourselves, but from showing up authentically with our needs and desires intact. Enter intentional tolerance. Intentional tolerance is radically different. It's not even really tolerating per se, but I wanted a term that like made sense and sounded cute with the former state of being, the annoying and bracing tolerance. So listen, here we are. Intentional tolerance is grounded in conscious choice and comes from a place of self-worth, resilience, self-regard, and the capacity to regulate our nervous system. Rather than being driven by fear and self-abandonment, intentional tolerance has its roots in grounded presence and arises from a deep understanding of your capacity to hold complexity and discomfort, to be with life in its lifiness, not as a sacrifice of yourself, but as an act of agency, autonomy, and compassion. In intentional tolerance, we allow space for things that might be difficult, uncomfortable, annoying, or outside of our preference. And we do so because we choose to. Not from obligation, not because we feel we must, or from the sneakiest of all, to try to make someone else feel something like beholden to us, grateful for and to us, pleased with us, etc. Intentional tolerance is not manipulative, like bracing tolerance is. It's the difference between white knuckling through a conversation that feels invalidating and choosing to stay curious and present, grounded in your body, because you decided it's worth staying engaged for the larger context or the larger relationship, and because you no longer need to disengage from life to keep yourself safer, because you know you have your own back. You're not actually going to allow yourself to be thrown off the proverbial emotional cliff into the emotional pit of despair by someone's comments that you don't agree with. Because you've done the work to expand your capacity, your nervous system, to stay with you when you don't like what's going on. Nary a table need be flipped. You're able to stay chill, grounded, unbothered. And wow, is that the magic? This shift often comes with increased somatic awareness. When we heal and learn how to regulate our nervous system, we become more adept at noticing when our bodies are moving into a bracing pattern. Our muscles tighten, our breath gets shallow. That feeling that life is coming at us, happening to us, is all we can experience. We don't need a trigger warning. We need a machete to cut off anything bothersome the F out of our lives. But with healing, we learn that rather than letting that tension run the show, we can intentionally soften us into discomfort, inviting our parasympathetic nervous system to engage, slowing our breath, long, slow out, and staying connected to our experience of self, which we know is indelible. We choose to tolerate. Let's replace that with hang out, be with, stay present with, get curious about difficult emotions, conversations, experiences. Not because we need to keep someone else happy or whatever, but because we are committed to our own growth, to building resilience, to navigating life with integrity, and to building internal felt safety, which we talked about in episode 275. Intentional tolerance is the kind of tolerance that holds both self and other with care. It's the realization that I can hold space for you and me, both at once. I can listen to your pain without outsourcing my sense of worth to whether or not I can fix your problems. I can tolerate your anger, your criticism, or your fear because I know who I am in the face of it. My nervous system isn't holding on for dear life, waiting for this to end. It's grounded in the truth that I am safe to be me, even here. This shift doesn't mean we suddenly tolerate everything. Au contraire. Healing from emotional outsourcing often involves, generally starts with learning to say, no, thank you. Oh, you want to engage in hate speech? I'm not interested in hearing it. Thanks so much. I gave her the office. You know what I mean? Like saying no, not available, with clarity and firmness. Learning when to walk away from what no longer serves us. Relationships, friendships, relationships with parents, jobs, towns, apartments. On and on, and conversations, obviously. And in that, learning when to assert our boundaries. Super important. And it also means that when we do choose to stay in the discomfort, we do so with full awareness and intention for our own growth. We choose it from a place of inner knowing, recognizing that discomfort is not the same as danger. I'm going to say that again for the folks in the cheap seats. Discomfort is not the same as danger. And when we trust ourselves and we trust our growth and we know we have our own backs, we know we have the tools to stay present, grounded, and connected to ourselves, no matter how uncomfortable the conversation or situation may feel. So while bracing tolerance is reactive, a flinch in the face of fear, intentional tolerance is proactive. It's the embodiment of our own emotional resilience, our capacity to stay with ourselves, even when things get hard, without losing our sense of self or collapsing into the old patterns of people-pleasing, perfectionism, or caretaking that once defined our entire emotional landscape. It's the difference between surviving and thriving. Trying to control the world outside of us to avoid emotions, and trusting, knowing, believing, and living in the embodiment of the fact that we can be with all feelings, and none of them are going to kill us, no matter how much it feels that way. In this new space of intentional tolerance, we learn that we are no longer just putting up with life or other people. We are navigating complexity with grace, holding space for both ourselves and others with a calm confidence that comes from knowing that we are inherently worthy, that we belong to ourselves and our beloved community, and that we can choose what we tolerate and why. Above all, I wish you curiosity, compassion, and care, and a mind, heart, body, spirit, nervous system that is truly and profoundly unbothered. That's my hope for you, my darling. Thank you for listening. Let me know if this was helpful and supportive. I'm always curious what sparked for you when we take these deep dives, and I want to hear all about it. If you are looking to live a life where you're able to be in that intentionality, in more presence and grounded okayness in your body and thus your world, you're going to want to join us for Anchored, my 6-month coaching, somatics, thought work, and breathwork community-based program where we dive deep into nervous system regulation while working to support and shift our mindset, be a loving, kind place for our inner children to land and heal, and to cultivate lives we friggin' love while leaving the old anxiety, self-doubt, and rumination in the past. We start November 4th, 2024, and this will be the last cohort of the year. So if you've been wanting to work with me, wanting to experience the massive shifts you've been hearing about from alumni who've been coming on the show, don't hesitate. The program always sells out. Always. Just facts, my darling. So if you're ready to join us, come on, let's go. Head on over to victoriaalbina.com/anchored to learn more and apply now. I cannot wait to meet you and to talk more about this wildly life-changing community program. All right, my angels, let's do what we do. Gentle hand on your heart should you feel so moved. And remember, you are safe, you are held, you are loved. And when one of us heals, we help heal the world. Be well, my beauty. I'll talk to you soon. Ciao.